What's going on, Grundle Gravy? I need to turn up my mic before somebody jumps in here and tells me to do it. Yeah, it's a little bit louder probably on your end. I'll just go right there. Let me know if the audio is good. And video, I guess. Sweet. Awesome. What's going on, I don't know, how do you say that? I'm not even gonna try. Just gonna say Galleria. Almost got it. I've tried this before, and I think the issue was running the streaming software and also running Premiere Pro at the same time. It was causing an issue. I guess maybe, I don't know, I guess it would have to be Wi-Fi wise, but I basically couldn't do it. It was skipping all over the place, and so I had to end it. The last stream I tried to do, something happened. It was with the audio again, I think, but I think I've kind of worked that out and fixed it. So I had to just jump off that stream and just delete it because it was just like terrible, having technical difficulties and whatnot. But I've pinned a message to the top, basically kind of just explaining what I'm going to be doing here in this video, which is essentially just editing a video for YouTube. So I thought it'd be kind of cool for you guys to see, or interesting to see how it kind of goes. Not going to see, I mean, you're just going to see the video as it's playing and scrubbing through it and whatnot. So if you have any questions, maybe related to this or related to anything else at all, while I'm doing this, you know, we just have a conversation about whatever. I think there was, maybe I'll jump into that at some point, but there was a post that I made where people had topics for a live, and I was going to answer some of those questions during the live, but whatever you guys got along the way, go ahead and send it. We'll try to cover it. So just essentially what this is here is there's a body camera of an officer who was searching a residence for a suspect who, I guess they didn't know if he was in there or not. Well, they definitely didn't know if he was in there. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't be in there searching it. But the suspect had already gotten to an officer had already shot at the suspect. And the suspect ran. They believed him to be inside this house, or he ran. They thought that he could be inside the house for whatever reason. So they were searching that house. And of course, that he was in there and he was waiting for them. And the officer who was working the door where the room the suspect was in, you know, wasn't necessarily using everything that she could to her tactical advantage. And therefore, she didn't get shot, but she could have been killed. And so basically, this video is like kind of showing you how to work doors. But also I talk about like how SWAT would do this, right? And then I talk about if you're on a warrant team, here's an option that's available to you because this is what we would do inside of structures when searching for suspects. And then if you have none of those things, none of those tools, which, you know, patrol cops don't have that stuff, then this is also an option at the most basic level for you to work doors, search, you know, houses without any, you know, special equipment, if you want to call it that. I'm not sure you guys will be able to pick up on the audio, but I found it easier just to not manipulate my microphone and try to let you guys hear the computer through that kind of sound. And if it happens to be picked up on the mic here, I think that's just better, but it's not really that necessary. But I started on this last night, and I know you guys have probably seen videos where I appear multiple times in the same video. So I'm trying to do that with this video as well. And So I kind of started out on this one where I basically tried to think through all of the shots that I would need to demonstrate the things that I was talking about in the video. And then I did kind of the stationary talking portion after all of this, basically. So this is me in the beginning. This is like the first thing I started to do. And essentially what I was trying to kind of, show here in this demonstration as you see me moving through the door is kind of that typical CQB, that people know, right? Taking rooms, right? So obviously for now, you're just going to see me doing it a bunch of times because basically when you show yourself multiple times in the same video, you can't appear in the same like space, basically, right? So what I mean is like if I'm on the right side of the screen, I can also be on the left side of the screen, or I can be right next to each other, but you can't be in the same shot like over top of one another. So basically what you're doing is you're taking two separate shots and blending them together. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically making an entry. Now I am by myself, but I'm making an entry, and the idea here is I will have myself appear here and then kind of come through as the two-man, basically. So let's see if I can make that happen. So basically, I'm just like getting my shots here. I might do this, 3 or 4 times. And then, here's me coming through the door, just going straight. I don't know that I'm going to use this. Well, actually, I will use this, but that's not, I'm not going to use that with this shot here. The reason that I can't use this shot and this shot together probably is because of the movement of the door. So basically what you'll see here is what I do is I make that same first movement where I come in and I go to the right, and then you see me walk back through the door and then come in basically as the two-man, right? So what I think I'm going to probably do is, and I don't need sound, so I can just delete this. There's no sound here. So what I can probably do is essentially cut this frame and then integrate myself over on this other side. So I'll just try and do that real quick and see if I can do it relatively quick. So basically, I want to stop before I kind of give this up. So like right here, I'm going to stop that, and then I'm going to cut all the way basically until I walk through again, somewhere right in here. So that's about the time that I step. So I'm going to take those 2 frames, and I'm basically going to put them over top of one another, I believe. So, and then kind of cut the frames. So let's see if I can do that. And so they're going to basically be happening at the same time. So let's just kind of, right now I have this frame over top of the other one. Let's see, let me answer some questions maybe. I'm in law enforcement in Philly. We definitely need more close quarters combat training. Hello, sir. I like your work. It's very nice. Thank you. Could you do a training video on this? Oh, well, that's what I'm doing right now, I believe. I mean, basically. But I have other videos. I have a group that people pay for, and it's mainly for cops. Basically there's like a disclaimer at the beginning of the group that says like you could be requested to provide identification if necessary by an admin, and that's where basically all of my actual like training videos for cops are going. So I just posted a video on there which is essentially working doors, right? So I'll put the link in the description. I guess let me see if I'll pull it up right now. I'll put it in the description of this video when the video is over, okay? So if you want to go there, you can. Otherwise, you're just kind of going to get what I put out here on YouTube. But a lot of the stuff you can pick up on in my regular videos, honestly. Just found your videos and I'm planning to join the Australian Army. Love your video quality. I appreciate that. I think like it's interesting to me that a lot of people, they like the stuff and they appreciate it and they're like, oh, this is a very good video. In my mind, I'm like, dude, I got to make this better. This got to be better. I don't really like the way this happened. Maybe that's a normal thing. Maybe it's a good thing. I don't know, but I guess it's cool that people are liking it, even though I think like maybe it's not that great. So let me see here. So I got this frame on top of this one, and so this is going to be tricky because basically what you guys see here is, you know, because essentially to do this correctly, like absolutely correctly in a CQB way, using just myself can't really be done that well because you are on top of each other, you know, like as you're coming through the threshold, and I cannot actually make that happen. So there's going to be a delay in the time in which the number 2 guy appears, right? Because he can't be in the same frame. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the effects, and I'm going to go to crop, and I'm going to drag the crop over here, and then what I'm going to do is you'll see right here, right? So now I'm cropping that video into the other one, basically. And we'll see. Actually, you know what? I am actually not going to be able to use this video, this top one where I open the door and come. Did I open the door here? No, the door was already open. So I think I actually am going to need the video, this one, where I open the door this way. Yeah, probably. I knew this was going to be a difficult thing to do because of the coming through the door. And if it just doesn't work out, then I simply just won't be able to demonstrate it that well or be able to do it. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain a smooth streaming experience. I don't know what that means. All right. If you guys have issues, let me know. But if it's something going on, there's really nothing I can do about it. If it gets too bad of an experience, I just won't be able to stream. So let's see. I'm opening the door here. Now I want to crop this one. See if I can crop this one. So just as a reference, right? The video underneath. Okay. Just so you guys can kind of see a little bit better. So you see that basically I have the videos layered on top of one another, but in the video that's underneath, I'm coming through the door here, and I have this crop so you can't see it, but if I kind of crop this back over here, well, we'll see. Right, so something like this. It's going to be like a timing thing to try and figure this out, see if I can do it. Appreciate it. Good content. Hey, did they ever manage to upload your reaction to the truth about Lone Survivor? No, I talked about that really early in this video. I didn't because I had an issue with the stream, the volume, and I couldn't get it fixed, and it was just not, it wasn't a good video, so I had to just get rid of it. Ooh, this might actually kind of work out. So basically, as I'm clearing here, see how we kind of almost have it? Can barely even tell that the door is not the same door, so, all right. And also, something that I'll probably have to do is adjust the crop, right? So I think this is actually pretty good. I got to figure out something with the door because the door is, because you can see I'm, you know, why am I looking that way? Oh, okay, because I already cleared the corner. So once I cleared the corner to the right, I'm looking back the other way, right? Just like in marksmanship, when you identify a target, you don't like kind of move on a turret to the target, you look where the target is and then you drive the gun to the target. So that's pretty good. I'm actually kind of entering almost right behind. So basically, what I'll do is I will cut the top video here at this crop, at this spot, but then I need to basically bring myself more in frame, because if I continue this way, you see how it cuts me in half? the second guy in half, second me in half. So I have to, right as I start to hit the edge of that cut, I gotta make it bigger. Gotta make myself, I gotta increase the crop or decrease the crop, basically open the crop up more. And you might have to even do this frame by frame. So right now you see there I am number 2 guy, and you can tell where it's cut. So the important part about this is you can't move the camera. I'll try to fix the lighting down the road, where if you see differences in lighting, you hopefully can't tell on the other version or on the like complete version. But the reason that the lighting is changing is because the focus of the camera is set to, you know, autofocus. So on one frame, the camera is focusing on me over there, and on the other frame, the camera is focusing on me on the other one. So the lighting is changing to adjust for the camera's focal point, basically. So basically, I have it right now. You can see the line down the, or can you? Yeah, you can see the blue line. But if I click here, you won't be able to see it. Let's see. Now you can see like a kind of faded line, but so basically what I need to do is that line is right on the edge of my left heel. And as I move to the, I guess I'm actually moving to the right, but on the screen probably to the left, I need to continuously move that crop so it kind of follows my back. So that's what I'm going to do. And every time I do that, I have to just kind of like, basically, well, keyframes is probably a better way to do that. So that's what I'll do. Is it left? I think it's left. So you can cut the video so that in every cut it's adjusting, or you can use keyframes. Basically, a keyframe is just telling, you know, the software where to make the change. So you move it frame by frame. So like I'm moving it frame by frame, and then I would, at this frame, I would grab the see if I can. Yeah. So basically, kind of move it a little bit right there. It dropped another keyframe. So if I go back, you can see how that blue line is moving. It's following me. So that's what I'm going to try to continue to do, frame by frame. And if you look closely, you'll probably be able to see in the video where you kind of catch my heel being cut off or something. But at speed, most people won't notice it. Because basically it's like I got to get out of the way, and I'm seemingly not getting out of the way, right, in time. So basically what I would do is I would try to do it this way, and I would see if I can make it work. But sometimes like the movements are just not, you know, they're not good enough. That's why I do it multiple times, because there might be another frame where me going to the right, I was actually doing it faster. Right, because fast is kind of what I want in this situation, so I get out of the way for the second me, basically. What's up, Mario? So, let's see what we got here. So, I'll show it to you kind of now. This is just like, you know, bare bones. Like, I'm going to have to go back through this and make it better. But that's pretty good. So, here's kind of what it looks like. Kind of went really fast. Probably, yeah. And see, like in this run I did where I was going straight, I like gave it up, and because I in my mind I was like, I'm just going to stop the video right here to show like this is bad. You don't want to be in a position where somebody's going to shoot you right here. So, kind of in my mind, what that would look like is basically what I'm demonstrating is like you're looking from the perspective of the suspect with a gun. You know, looking at you, waiting for you to come through the door. And the kind of the point is like, do you want to be doing any of this when there's a suspect in that room waiting for you with a gun? So maybe kind of just prove this point. I can just go right here, and I can just do like frame holds right here to pause it. So go here. Insert, add frame hold, and this is what it would look like where you kind of can see. So basically what I would be explaining here is like, you can't win this. If there's a guy in a gun, basically the guy with the gun in the real video is facing the door just from the perspective basically of what you're looking at. So this is just the initial entry part. This isn't the full scan, back down, all that stuff. This is simply showing you, okay, there's a guy in here with a gun, right? And as soon as you do this, he's shooting, right? And now, I mean, this is what I do, right? So I point out the realities of CQB. Like there are fundamentals or things we do. And I have another video I just recorded. It's 25 minutes long. I'm not sure when I'm going to post it, but it's basically explaining why CQB, specifically dynamic entry or dynamic clearings, the success of that is based on two things, right? It's based on actual surprise, and I go over a bunch of details in that, and the suspect's willingness to fight, and nothing else really. So the suspect doesn't have a will to fight, which mostly they do not, and they don't fight, well then everything you do is going to be successful. But imagine yourself a guy, a dedicated guy with a gun, waiting for you to come through the door, right? Like you're already just shot. You're shot here, or you're being shot at, you're reacting to that, then you're turning to try and get rounds on that guy. And he's not doing any of that, he's just shooting at the threshold. But this is what the principles tell you, right? First guy goes right. This is a corner fed room, by the way. Maybe I could, to show that this is a corner fed room, maybe. Let's see here. Can I? No, I can't. Basically what I could do, I could just scale it so that like that side of the room is closed off kind of, but then I got to do all this other, it's going to be way too big. That's not really going to work. I'll just like make it known that this is a center fed room so people, you know, don't lose their minds. Redo. But anyways, I think this is a pretty good shot right here. Kind of shows the purpose of like, yeah, you're already being shot at and that's not good. So what I would do here is like, you can't see my timeline, but I have, you know, this grouped together, these videos grouped together. I'll probably nest them together, which means it's basically taking all these individual videos that I have stacked on top of each other, and it's like just making it into one. So, and then I'm not going to need that video, you know, maybe it's later in the video, so I'll just grab it and move it, you know, to the end of the timeline and where it's out of the way. Just knowing that I have that little piece done, basically. Let's see, any questions or anything? Let's see. Actually, this is probably, I should have used this clip right here probably, because I am doing more of a scan, but you wouldn't make it that far is kind of the point anyway, so I'm not going to delete that video because I might use it, but it's not, maybe I don't need it. Let's see here. Second guy, okay. Thoughts on flamethrower for CQB? That's kind of funny. But I think you know the answer to that. Maybe for a trench or something. Basically an ambush by the suspect. Yeah. Yeah, it's an ambush. By definition, yes. And let's see here. What other shots do we have? I guess, again, this is just me doing that same thing, because I don't know which videos are going to go well together and help me blend it together. I should have looked at all of them before I decided which ones I was going to try to use, because that took some time to do. Okay. So now I'm moving on to demonstrating basically, let's see, what am I demonstrating here? Let's see. So at a basic level, right? So I am I blending shots together here? I don't think I can, right? And I was using their setup, you know, of what they actually had in the real situation. So it kind of, you know, restricted me a little bit on how I was able to make things work. But what I wanted to do here also was show the door come open and show where they could have been standing when the door came open and assessed inside the room, which is all the way back here in the other room, essentially. So I'm going to cut this at least to the parts where, because I can't show the door opening. Wait, yes, I can. All right, let's see if we can do that. So basically what I want to do is I want to show the door coming open. And in this frame where the door is coming open, I'm inside the room, but to the right of the hinge there. So this is right when the door comes open. And I want to go and basically stop. Or just, I don't need any more other than when the door comes all the way open for that one. And then what I want to do is I want to go where I'm posted up inside. And I already want to be there when the door comes open. So I'm going to do the same thing, basically, but kind of in reverse. So I'm here, did all that. I can cut this and maybe I don't need the rest of whatever's here. Let's see. No, I don't. So I'll get rid of that. And basically I'll just do the same thing I did before. So again, same thing. Right now I have that frame on top of the frame where the door comes open, and I want to grab the crop tool, put it on top. And what we want to see is we want to see the door come open. And then when the door comes open right here, basically you want to see me there. That's going to be tricky. But I only need the portion of this video where I am standing there, which is a very small portion. So I'm really just going to cut out that little sliver of me, basically. This isn't done, but you see the idea here. Door comes open and I'm there, right? Now in this, I guess you can see me, right? Like back there. But in this video, I'm actually, well, in the video where the door comes open, I'm actually to the right of the hinge, but I'm actually also like deeper in the room. And I'm doing all this by myself, so. If I had another people, this stuff would be a lot easier. Home defense, handgun. But you can use whatever. That actually works good. I don't know how that works so good on the first go, but doors open and I'm there. So that's cool. And continue with that. Don't want to see me appear and walk past myself. That'd be weird. So we just stop it, you know, wherever the point's proven, which is way back here. Now I'm thinking I probably shouldn't have nested those together before, because I need to mess with the lighting to basically kind of make it, make them appear not different shots, essentially. There was an easy way to do that, I found, but I haven't done this in a minute, so I don't really remember what it was, where they kind of blend them together pretty good. I'll just go on YouTube basically and look, and I'll find something. So I have that shot there, which, okay, so I have the shot where it's like, this is what happens when you actually just enter the room with a guy with a gun. You know, you start shooting before you get through the doorway. And then, you know, you have other problems. Then that video or that frame there was like, if you had no equipment at all, this is how you could set up on this situation and, you know, clear most of the room from the outside before having to go in. And what would have happened in that situation if you were the shooter from that perspective right here? I mean, is it harder to hit me here or harder to hit me when I'm walking through the threshold, right? Most people know about or have been experienced or seen the CQB stuff that's on the internet, but most people have not been exposed to alternative approaches to covert clearing or tactical searching or whatever the hell you want to call it, and kind of get in this mindset that the best way of finding out if there's a guy in the room is by going inside the room. And the answer to that is not that. Best unit size for clearing a standard residential structure. Many say 4 is too few. I think I go over it in this video, but on our department, you need at least 2 people, me and one other person, to clear a structure, really. Now, if it's like several floors or a church, whatever you call for some help, but one of the, I think I talk about it, but you know, we're also clearing structures typically under the idea or belief that there is nobody inside, right? So a burglary that dropped at 2 a.m. and now we're getting there at 6 and the door's open, you know, probably nobody in there, right? I mean, I'm not saying you don't pretend that there is, and that's not your mentality, but we have to get authorization to search, and 99% of the searches that happen, officers are getting on the radio and they're saying, you know, asking for a supervisor. They'll say, go ahead, and you just say, you know, I got dispatched to a burglary. It occurred at 2 a.m. I don't believe there's anybody inside. When I get back up and I cleared a search, and they're going to say, yeah, you're clear. So, or even if, like, say, for example, a domestic, right, where a female is like beat up. All right. So what I was saying is, even in domestic, for example, if you think, or a female is, you know, been assaulted and she's saying he's not in there, he left. Well, you know, in that situation, we'll still search the apartment or residence or whatever, because we don't want to leave a victim there potentially with the suspect still inside. And again, to do that, we need 2 people. Yeah, so in other instances, you'll ask for some more assistance, but usually it's just going to be 2 people. Now, to answer your question, but I don't think that's safe, and I don't think that that is appropriate. Because, you know, you can't, first of all, you need to send at least 2 people into a room. And if you do that and you only have 2 people, well, then you're not, like, in most cases, able to also make sure, like, somebody isn't running out down the hallway and you know, or whatever, or getting your back, right? So if it's a regular size small rooms, you can take it, like, if you only have 2 people, you can take that room together, and then as soon as you just, like, quickly identify there's no immediate threat there, that person can post up and watch outside the door, kind of. But then, you know, there's secondary searches too, and there's a way to do that. And you're supposed to have, you know, somebody kind of working the problem physically, and then somebody actually checking it, you know, in most cases. A lot of that stuff just doesn't happen for law enforcement out on the streets. So, you know, I went to a call, I guess it was probably 3 weeks ago now, and actually, it was a little bit confusing, but basically I got there, and there was a broken window, there was blood all over the place, and it was an apartment, 2nd floor. I called for another unit, and as I walked up the stairs, the door was open to the apartment. It was actually broken open, right? So I just, like, said what I had and asked for another unit, and I basically just said, like, to dispatch, like, hold the air, I'm gonna go in. And the reason is because, you know, the exigency or whatever, but also my thought process is there could be somebody in there that's bleeding out, right? And I want to be able to go help them. I'm not going to sit out here and wait, you know, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, whatever it is, until I get back. I was like, oh, could have saved them, but you didn't actually go in, right? So it's dangerous, like, and so you're doing one-man CQB, right? And that happens sometimes. Or, you know, another incident not that long ago, responded to it's basically like a assault in progress. So, like, a neighbor was calling because the daughter was beating up the mother. And when I got there, essentially I actually, based on the call, and whatnot, I was gonna, you know, basically hit the door, and I went to go. Well, I was gonna actually try to just open the door and announce, right? Again, exigency. And I go to reach down. There's no doorknob, and it's an outside apartment door, like the main door. I'm like, what the hell? It was just a deadbolt. And so at that point, I looked down to the females that called, and they're looking up at the balcony, but I can't see the balcony from where I'm standing. And they're like, hey, she needs help. She needs help. That's what they're saying. And I'm like, do you see her? Like, yeah, she's on the balcony. And I'm like, okay, well, ask her if she needs my help. And they're like, yeah, she said she needs your help. And they're like, oh, she's right there. The daughter, like talking about the suspect, she's right there. She's right there. So I, you know, kicked the door open. But everything I did was from the threshold. I never had to go in there during like affecting the arrest and whatnot. But I hit the door, you know, called mom out to me. She walked out, and then the daughter, you know, she didn't have anything in her hands, whatever. She walked towards the door, and when she got close enough, I holstered and grabbed her and handcuffed her or whatever. So, but if that was a situation where it was more active and I didn't see anybody and it was time to go in, like, that's just, it is what it is, right? I don't know if that answers your question. How can I be part of the Ukrainian armed forces in this conflict? Well, first of all, I don't know why you're saying answer my question like that, because that's kind of like I'm talking, somebody else asked a question, I'll try to answer your question, a little bit aggressive, but I'm not even going to tell you, because you can Google it, and I'm not going to promote like that people go over there and fight, like, or even give them the outlet or the opportunity to go do it. I don't care if you do. I don't mind if you do. I don't think it's wrong, but I'm not going to be the one to tell you where to go to do it. It's not hard. You can find it. Go to, well, I'm not even going to tell you. Just Google it. You'll find it. What's up, Chris? Thank you. I appreciate it. Let's see. True that. Automatically me entering if it was domestic violence. I guess, I mean, need more context, right? I mean, just not any domestic violence situation. This was an assault, an aggravated assault, and it wasn't really just the call. It was the females that were telling me, like, the way they were acting, saying, she needs your help, she's on the porch, you know. So I actually asked her to ask her if she wants me to come in there. And they asked her in Spanish, and she said, yeah. All right, I'm coming in. Was it necessary? No, not really, but it helps, right? It's just an extra layer of like authorization, right? So anyways, go back to this video. Let's see here. So let's see, what am I doing? I'm not even sure I'm gonna need this, but basically what I'm demonstrating here, and I got to put this all together. And I don't know if I'll start here. Let me see, find the other angle where I'm doing this from farther away first. Maybe I missed it. But basically, I'm demonstrating how if we were the team that I was on, we were actually doing arrest warrants for people, and we weren't sure if they were inside because we've already knocked and announced and done all these things. We had to go in there and search. How would we manipulate a door at the end of the hallway without actually having to go in there from a distance, right? And these are all options. And basically, what I'm saying is like this option might not be available to you because you don't work on a team, and you know, etc. But it could be available to you if you do. So I kind of address like two different, not types of cops, but cops in different positions, because, you know, if I just show you how to use a tool to do it, you know, a lot of people are going to be like, well, I don't have that. That's not available to me. Just true. I'm gonna have to go through my camera because I don't see it in here, but I'm looking for, I think I did it. Let's see here. I'll just work on this one while I'm here. But basically, so what I want to do is and the reason that I obviously do it a bunch of times is again because I don't know which time of me doing it is gonna make the most sense. So basically, what I'm gonna do, this is using a painter's pole essentially that I have rigged up, and I have different attachments to the end that I can do different things with, and you can open and close doors and whatnot, even doors with doorknobs. You have the right attachment, you know what you're doing, which means like I can open a door from 15 feet down the hallway, whereas most people's only other option would be to walk down there and open it, which isn't great when there's somebody in there with a gun. If you guys are in the chat, you want to help support the channel, make sure you drop a like in there. How do you mitigate safety in an active shooter, but go fast enough to eliminate the threat? So there's a difference between, there's two different things, assuming risk and unnecessary risk, right? In an active shooter situation, you are assuming a lot of risk, which means you know that it's dangerous and there's nothing that you can do about it. So for example, if you heard shooting inside of a room during an active shooter, right, or another victim, hostage or whatever, well, you're going to have to probably make entry into that room, right? That is, you're assuming risk by doing that because the mission says so. Now, if it's a suspect inside the room who has a gun, but he's only a danger to himself, and we're talking to him, he's like, I'm not coming out, and you hear a gunshot, well, you're not going to rush in there, right? Because that would be unnecessary risk. It's not necessary for you to rush in there, right? So that's the difference between the two. But you are still continuously analyzing and mitigating risk, no matter how fast or slow you're moving. And that's where training comes into play, right? You can do things during an active shooter that are still unnecessary risk because you don't have, the training, right? Or you don't understand angles, right? So just a basic example, if there's an active shooter situation and there's an open door on the left and you're moving down the hallway and it's kind of wide enough, let's just say wide enough for like 3 people, like a school or something like that, or 4, it's the only door, it's the only open door, or it's the open door that you believe the shooter's probably in because you hear it, right? Well, by you approaching that on the left side of the hallway, that's where the open door is, well, you're taking unnecessary risk by doing that because the better option is to approach on the right side. Whereas as you're approaching the open door, you're seeing into the room sooner, and therefore you could possibly mitigate and eliminate the threat sooner. And also not, if you were on the left side, somebody walks out right in front of you, you're point blank to this person now, right? So the answer to your question, you can't mitigate safety, isn't really the right way of saying that. CQB, however fast or slow that you're doing it, is all about identifying and mitigating threats and addressing those threat areas as quickly as possible, hopefully without delay. But that is also the problem with CQB, and is that you'll hear the word all the time simultaneously, right? But it doesn't happen simultaneously, right? So an example is the video that I showed you, or I already put together. Let me see if I can go find it real quick. And this is why I talk about the dangers associated with CQB and the unrealistic expectations associated with CQB, which CQB is necessary, right? And it works, or, it works 100% of the time when somebody's not already ready to, shoot you, but otherwise doesn't usually work out. So, so simultaneously, right? So someone would say, well, the first man enters and goes right, the second guy, goes left or straight, I guess in this case, and you're simultaneously covering threat areas. Look where I'm at, though, right? There's nothing simultaneous about that, right? At the point in which I'm pointing to the right, directly in front of me is not being covered. So simultaneously does not exist. But we can get as good as possible by, mitigating the time it does take, right? Because is me going to the right and me not showing up yet, I'm still not there, and now I'm approaching the center of the room, is that worse? Yeah, that's worse. But it's just not simultaneously. And by the way, this is also not happening because, again, I'm not in the same frame, but if this was a true two different people doing this, you would see me, hopefully, you'd see that person right here pointing the gun straight. But again, I have to kind of do this just for the video purposes. So hopefully no one gives me a hard time and goes, oh, you're delayed as number 2, man. Yeah, can't really help it. So, like, let's talk about don't rush to your death. A lot of people don't really understand that term, like that, whatever you want to call it, phrase. And it's true, like, if you're, for example, the video that I put out where I was basically demonstrating when you hear gunfire down the hallway, like this is how you will respond to that gunfire. This is how you should respond, which is we're moving directly to the threat because we believe we know where the threat is because we hear it. Now, in a school, in a building, do you know exactly where it is? Like, it's in that room, 3 rooms to the left? No. But what you will know, get a good understanding of, even in real life without training, but is the proximity between you and the sound of gunfire, which is telling me that I can basically bypass these openings until I get to either A, where I think the shooting is, or I moved far enough to where now I'm like, he could be anywhere now here in front of me, right? I've gone over like active shooters and multiple threats. And if you're by yourself, or even if you have another person, right? All you have to do is to see how impossible it is to check off on every room before you get to where you hear the gunfire is go into a hallway, like in the video that I have, where there's literally, 15 doors before you get to the problem, okay? And there's a door here, you go a little bit down, there's a door on the right. Sometimes there's opposing open doors. Well, if you're by yourself, what are you gonna do? Like, I'm not saying completely just blindly run and don't pay any attention. You could glance over there, but don't plan on doing anything because you're moving too fast. It's not gonna happen. But there's people that think like, oh, well, you have to check off on every door. Well, how do you do that if you have opposing doors then, right? And all you have to do is put these people in these situations and get, okay, do it. And all you're going to hear is bang, bang, bang. And you're going to be in the hallway going like this, and then you're going to be in the hallway going to the right, and then you're going to have opposing doors. And so I guess you're going to be like, let me look in here, let me come over here, and now let me look in here. Like, you have to be put in that situation to realize it doesn't make sense. So a lot of people talk about that. And kind of, of course, like one of the shorts that I made out of that video, people are saying like, oh, you're rushing to your death and because there could be a second shooter or whatever, like whatever, So what I was doing could be implied that I was rushing to my death. Well, no, what I was doing was, actually using tactical sound decision making, which is, again, through the series of videos, I pointed out, like, if you're going to be moving at a speed and trying to address things inside of rooms, you're probably just making yourself harder to hit, okay? And what I didn't show, which I wish I would have in that video, is the perspective of me looking into the room as I was going by it, because that was a office building where my backdrop, as I'm looking into the room, is windows that go out into the city, right? So you're either going to do one of two things. Like, you're going to bypass it because you're going directly to the threat, or like, say, for example, I've moved to a point where, okay, I know the shooting wasn't within these first 5 doors because it sounded pretty far away, but now I'm not quite sure. Now I need to kind of start checking. So I would do a more deliberate, methodical pieing of rooms. If it was opposing doors, I would take the right side. I would be looking in there. I also wouldn't be completely dedicated to just like, okay, I'm here, my muzzle's here, this is where I'm at. Okay, let me keep looking here. No, because he could be in this room right next to you. He could be down the hallway. So what would you actually be doing in that situation? You would be assessing the door that's directly in front of you. And you would be, if you, at a certain point, you actually would be kind of turning your head. You'd be doing one of these. Because you have to be able to kind of address, all of those situations. So if you look at that video and you see me running down the hallway, people would say, oh, you're rushing to your death. No, I'm using tactical sound decision making to move to where I think the threat is. And then when I start to get to that point, I'm slowing myself down. I'm being more deliberate. Just like if you watch that video in the run where I go all the way down the hallway, before I actually get to the room I make entry into, there's an opening. And so as I'm getting to that opening, because it's in such close proximity to where the suspect was or ran into the room, right? I slow myself and I clear that first, because I don't know what that is. I don't know if that room goes out into the other room. So I'm clearing that first, but I saw him go in this room. Okay, now I'm going, right? I'm not just willfully running down there and walking inside the room. That would be rushing to your death. If the mission doesn't call for you to be using the tactics that you're using and you're actually going fast, then yeah, you're probably, you could be rushing to your death, right? So the video that I'm going to put out, that's 25 minutes long, if you're doing a dynamic clearing for narcotics that may or may not be there, then, my opinion, and most people's opinion actually, like most SWAT officers around the country, which I go over testimonials from. I have a group of SWAT guys on my, in an app, and, go over all their experiences with dynamic entries and why they're not doing them now, right? Because the risk versus reward, they understand, one, the dangers involved with, dynamic clearings, and that the mission does not support the risk to people's lives, right? So in that situation too, you could be rushing to your death. 10-year Danish Army, Afghanistan vet. That's awesome. Appreciate you. Thanks. Let's see. I gotta read some of these. Let me see. So yeah, the principle of not standing in the door with an officer using a shield still does apply, but there might be instances or situations where you don't really have a choice. So just for example, like if the hallway was a narrow hallway, only one officer could fit in the hallway, and there's a door at the end of the hallway, like directly in front of you, well, then there's just nowhere for you to go, right? But even with a shield, there's also other considerations like, do I need to be here to protect the team? Or can I utilize the shield? But yeah, the principle still applies. You're still not going to open the door directly in front. Like if I had a shield, so in this situation, if I had a shield and I was opening the door to the left of where the door's opening, the hinge side, right? I would have the shield and I would be over there. I would still be looking in. My scan process would not change, and how I expose myself would not change, regardless of what side of the room I'm on. Cutting the pie from the best, longest angle of safety. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, when you have the opportunity to move farther away, that's going to be beneficial, right? I mean, yeah, and the main reason is because, look, and again, people are really confused about this. The internet's confused about this whole thing where, people would just shoot through drywall. It's like, well, your alternative of standing in front of the door or entering the room is not the better approach, okay? Secondly, I've put out, several videos either on the Instagram. I put them in some of my old videos on YouTube on the other channel. Rounds do things when they hit things, okay? Not when they hit drywall only, right? But when they hit this frame of this door right here, right? I've watched videos of rounds not making it inside the room because officers are hitting the frame of the door, right? That goes both ways, whether you're shooting in or somebody's shooting out. So I would rather give the bullet or the round an opportunity to do something rather than give the round an opportunity to do nothing before it actually gets to me. So in this situation here, right? So if we didn't, and that's kind of the point too of like the better alternative in this situation is the team way of doing it without robots and all those things. So imagine that, because I don't have it really put together for you guys. Yeah, I was just working on that. Actually, you know what? I'll group these together so we can kind of go back and forth and talk about them. But let's say, for example, I had to be to the right of the hinge. Like let's see. So I had to be here on the other side of the wall when I opened this door because there was no other way to do it, which is the patrol way in this situation. Well, for the most part, I actually just now remembered I forgot to show something where they could have still opened it from a distance. But, right, it's better than standing in front of the door. It's better, than going in the room, but it's not the best because we're still in the vicinity of the doorway. And as we look into the room over here, I mean, the suspect could see you there, whether even if you kind of duck back and start pieing it, there could be a gunfight here. It's still not the best, right? Even better, if we look at now inside the room, basically, let me move this down so it's in. So this is like a look inside the room, and I have made a bunch of things to make the walls because I didn't have, obviously, like walls. But imagine now, instead of being over here to the right, when the door comes open, we have an officer here, and we have an officer over here pointing their guns in there. Well, now, for that round to, the guy would have to be, shooting high up and to the right to basically hit you in the face. And if the round travels along the wall or hits the wall or goes into the wall, there's a very little chance it's going to hit you because it's going to do a bunch of things before it gets to you, right? There's a bunch of 2x4s, there's a bunch of electrical, all these things, right? The other thing, like people will point out, you'll see in the comments, right? They'll say where I am here, where I'm basically the team thing, where I'm working this pole to open this door. They'll say, oh, well, those walls won't protect you, those drywall. It's like, so you're telling me that if you're the bad guy on the other side of this door, right, waiting for the door to come open, that you're intentionally going to shoot like towards the ground, basically, to try and hit me in the head or hit the wall, and then the round's going to go through the wall to hit me, because actually what I demonstrate is that I don't even have to be exposed at the moment in which I actually open this door. So this is where I'm at, and then this is me right here working the door and opening it, right? So there's that. Let me see here. Solo CQB, nightmare fuel, no matter what. Yeah. Fastest, nearest, best way opportunities. I'm not sure what that means. You have to kind of explain a little bit more. You simply can't do it the best way every time. That's true. Right. I mean, that's absolutely 100% true, which is why, the best way of doing this is to have a robot that goes down there and opens the door and goes, hey guys, he's in there and he has a gun. But that's not an opportunity that's available to everybody. That's why SWAT does that, right? Because special weapons and tactics, they have the training, experience, the equipment, the money to do all that. And that's why they do that. But what it also doesn't mean is that the best way now is to go into the room, right? Well, no. Is there a way that we could still open the door and see in there without going in there? And maybe there is, and maybe there isn't. But you have to be able to understand what your options are and identify of those options what the best way of doing something is. I think that's a very reasonable thing. A lot of times, and this is true, to some degree, and I think a lot of instructors or trainers, they kind of say this because they're trying to be, they don't want to make hard stands sometimes, right? Is they'll say like, these are all just options, right? And when I do that, I try to say like, yeah, these are your options, but this is the option I think is the best. Okay. And this is why I think it's the best. So for example, right. It's an option for you to walk, stack up and go into this room. Or it's an option for you to be at the end of the hallway and open the door with a pole if you're on a team, right? Or it's an option, which I don't show in this video, if you don't have any of that stuff, to also still be at the end of the hallway, but grab a pillow off the couch and throw the door open from down the hallway. All of those options are better than walking through the door, right? So it's an option for me to draw my handgun in an engagement and shoot one-handed. But why would I choose that option when I have two hands perfectly available, right? Because everybody knows that, you know, shooting two-handed is just far more accurate. You can control the gun more, etc. So that's what that's about. I mean, that's kind of my thing, right? Like, I enjoy looking at problems and trying to figure out what the best way of solving the problem is. Would you say this shows good active shooter training? Would I say what shows good active shooter training? This video that I'm editing? No, it's not active shooter. This is a situation where there's potentially a suspect hiding with a firearm inside of a residence and we're just doing a search. Like, active shooter, you have to, like, there's a time constraint and the mission says that that has to happen quickly. So you can't do all these other things because these other things take time and coordination. Would you like to know what can be done as civilian and active shooter to make sure that law enforcement won't think I am the bad guy? I have advice for you. And my advice is, if you're in the immediate vicinity of an active shooter and you want to try to handle that problem, that's, you know, perfectly okay. That's within your right to do that. However, you should understand the time in which, you know, where you're at. Like, if you're working at a mall with cops that work the mall as well, you don't have a lot of time to be walking around with a gun looking for the bad guy. Because I'm telling you, like, cops are going to see you with the gun and they're just going to shoot, probably. So, you know, there's a, you know, I don't have anything personal against any people, you know, industry-wise or trainers or even like their companies or whatever. So you'll never hear me, you know, talk down or talk crap about other people, but you will see me, like, use other people's information to demonstrate why I think this is the better way of doing something. So for me, it's about concepts and ideas. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about the information. So, you know, a lot of people still don't like that. I mean, there is a lot of people that build an entire channel off of, like, talking about other people, and, you know, that's their thing, I guess. But I'm not interested. But there is an individual who is on a podcast who made a statement about responding to an active shooter that I think is bad information if you follow it. And you know, it's not intentional. It's just, like, kind of who he is. But basically what he said was, he was asked, if you were with your family and there was an active shooter, would you take care of your family or would you go after the shooter? And he said, I would take my family to the car, and then I would go after and say, hey, here's the keys, get out of here. And then I would go after the active shooter. I don't advise that you do that, okay? Because it depends, right? Where you're at, time you have. But there's just a good chance that if you're holding a gun, when an officer arrives, is already working the area or whatever, and he sees you, you are as much of a suspect as the shooter is in that moment, right? So rightly or wrongly, you know, do they have an opportunity to give commands? Will they give commands? So if you are in the immediate vicinity and you do decide to act, and you do act, you need to, like, if he's down, you need to, like, holster your gun and stay nearby. You know, definitely not have a gun in your hands when the cops arrive. There is an incident that I know about where a civilian shot an active shooter. That shooter shot a cop, killed the cop, and I think he may have shot somebody else, and the civilian shot the active shooter. And then the additional officers that arrived shot the civilian and killed him. So that's something to be aware of. Now, what is an option also, which is riskier, but if, you know, you're trying to weigh, like, having a gun in your hands and being, you know, a victim to the police, is moving towards the shooter where the shooting's happening, not actually with your gun in your hands, which is, like, contrary to the tactical, you know, way you would want to do that. And I'm not advising that you do, but I'm just saying, if you're like, well, I want to go check this out, I hear the shooting, but I know I'm in a mall with cops, you know, yeah, I mean, I would just say, like, maybe, because, again, you can kind of tell where the shooting's happening and how close you are. So you might be able to get to a perspective where you see the shooter, right? Like, okay, I see the shooter. Now I'm drawing my firearm. Or maybe you have your gun, your hand's already on your gun inside your holster, right? Just not visible. All that's dependent on a bunch of different things. Appreciate you. Nyberg, I think is the, how you say that? Let me catch up. Okay. We can't live with weapons here in Denmark as now civilians, so we do all of this training with airsoft ammunition. So many people in the comments have never been on receiving end of a door entry. Yeah, I know. I try to like interact with people in the comments as much as I can. People that are completely off their rocker, my thing is, and I've said this before, is like, if you're not talking crap, and that's like things like, oh, this guy's an idiot, doesn't know what he's talking about, or don't follow anything this guy says, like stuff like that. Like you're talking crap, like you're not providing value. We're not having a conversation. You don't have a better option. You're just saying things like that. I just block you. Like it's super easy. And then you have, people that are just wrong continuously. Like, for example, like the video that I posted, the short of moving direct to threat. A lot of people in that, in the comments, if you want to go read the comments in the short, and I got tired of trying to keep up with it, so I just don't anymore because it has like almost 1 million views. They say things, they're basically continues to say like, oh yeah, like, things like that's not a good idea, you get shot in the back, or things like that. I don't care if people say that stuff. Like that's the wrong thing. Like it doesn't happen. So I don't care that they say that. Just like just don't talk crap. It's the only thing. I got a lot of things that I'm trying to do and things that I'm trying to get done and people that I'm talking about or talking to, people that want information, people that have alternative perspectives and want to discuss those with me. And I just posted on the Instagram recently a video of me talking about like, dude, stay out of my DMs if you just want to run your mouth. Because, when you do that, you'll find out if you like, content creator or public figure or whatever, it's literal time wasted, right? Like, it's like Republicans and Democrats trying to convince each other that they're wrong, right? It's like, I'm not going to spend any amount of time arguing with another person, especially via like text or whatever, because you will literally waste hours in over one person. And I just block it out and I just keep going. And it served me well and I enjoy it and it doesn't affect me. So that's my thing. That's what I do. Yeah. Yeah, I have simunitions and I have airsoft back here too, but can't, or maybe I need to just take an optic off my other gun. So I was trying to mount a plate on it. Finally got the plate on the right gun, and then the optic I have wouldn't fit on it. So it was kind of frustrating because I want to do a lot of training with the airsoft stuff. And then like, so I can have a good perspective and really be able to speak to the value in that, because I believe that there is. But that's a longer conversation and a lot of like, deep thought and practice really. So FUDs say shotguns for home defense, but SWAT takes rifles and use shotguns for opening doors, right? Shotguns are outdated concept. Yeah, fight me in real life. Yeah, the thing about it is people say, again, this is maybe true in some instances, but obviously like psychologically, the factor of a shotgun being racked is too much for criminals, and they just they freak out and they run because they know it's on. Whatever. I mean, sure, maybe it's true, but like, you guys will never, hopefully, hear me like debate or talk about things that I just think are irrelevant, like nuanced things. I try to be as practical as I can because it's weird for me. Like, that's why when people ask me questions about guns and stuff, I don't have an answer. Well, I don't say that. Like, I have my own experiences, and I'm not a gun person. I'm not a gun tuber. In the future, you'll probably see me kind of talk about some gun stuff because opportunities involved with some other people maybe, but you know, I have a 12.7 LWRC that's behind me. You can't see it in the camera, but you know, I have a perspective on what size rifle, you know, is good for people, for patrol officers, I would say. You know, things like that. But I don't care what optic you have as long as it's not from Walmart, and I don't care how high your riser is. You know, yeah, I have an opinion kind of like from personal experiences on riser height and stuff, but that's just my opinion and none of it's really wrong. So, yeah. Let's see here. No, the link I posted above that message. Did you post a link? I don't think you can. I don't see a link. I don't know if you see it, but I don't see one. I don't think you can post a link in the chat. Also, if you guys don't know and you're interested, you want to further support the channel, you can by becoming members of the channel. I think it's like $4 a month or something. You know, I have, I think, one video so far, but whenever I get videos done, so I'm kind of on this schedule of like once a week now because I've found that posting twice is not helping, and in fact hurting like an individual video. So a lot of times, like right now, I have this other video that's basically done, the warrant, you know, dynamic thing. And once I get it done, I will put it up for the members to watch, members only. And at some point, when it's time to post that video, I'll probably make it public, maybe. There's another video about working doors, outward opening doors. That's not public. That's for members. I'm not going to make that one public, so that's like a training video. And so like this video, I just don't know the schedule in which I'm posting things, but I have things that are done. Before this, I recorded another video, like kind of a combat review video, basically. So basically one video a week, but I have videos that are just complete and they'll be up there for members. So if you want to do that, I think like the only way to become a member is to go to a video and click like join or something like that. Because I don't think there's a tab on the page for some reason. Let's see here. Investing in a drone with a built-in camera with a Wi-Fi box or something would be a great idea to invest in. Are you saying that you should? But yeah, drones are cool. Obviously, you see that in Ukraine being a significant factor in fighting, and tool be used for other things, surveillance and whatnot. In fact, in the future, you will see, probably, I don't know how you're going to see, but I'm going to be starting another channel in the future. I'm actually more or less planning the channel out. Going to, you know, shoot the content before I actually launch the channel. But the caveat to that is because of the sensitive like nature of the channel, in the sense of like the people on the channel aren't necessarily, you're not gonna be able to see like their actual face. I don't know that I will be able to like, or I will even tell people on this channel about it. But basically what I'm getting at is we are going to be using a lot of drones to get the shots and complete the tasks that we're trying to complete. And maybe I'll do something like an email list. I'll start talking about it like, hey, if you want to be on the email list for the new channel. And so, yeah, well, basically, you know, I'm going to be on the channel, but my face is going to be covered because of the things that we're going to be doing. And it's not that I don't want people, because like, for example, if I make an email list and I send you guys, hey, check out this channel, you're gonna be like, oh, obviously this is him, right? That's not a big deal. You know, if people know it's me, I just don't want my face on the channel itself because there will be a lot of interest on the civilian side, and most of them aren't going to do enough digging, and most of them aren't going to make the connection, and most of them aren't going to, you know, really try to figure out who it is. As long as my face isn't on the that channel itself, I don't care if people know it's me. So I just don't want the average person or the lay person to see it and go, oh, that's that person. Only because we live in the communities that we're going to be doing this stuff in. So They actually have a drone. I was looking at it. They have a drone that's like for security, where basically, and maybe it's just for commercial use, but basically, it sits like in a charging station on the roof, I believe, and whenever the alarm is tripped, it launches and like does a, you know, maybe it's a planned route or something, or it just goes to the location and films. You can find them. I don't know how well they work. That'd be cool though. And I also plan on, if the channel, well, I hope the new channel will start doing really well. And, you know, you guys aren't going to, hopefully, or even now, you don't really hear me talk about other people, companies, or products, because I don't want to promote other people's stuff unless, you know, there's some relationship, like legitimate relationship of some sort, and it makes sense. But our goal on that channel would be to essentially get the channel sponsored by some drone companies so that, you know, we can further do the things that we want to do with the channel. So, car, head to the car. What does that mean? Team up with them, but I don't know. My hoi mino. I didn't say that. You said it. Yep, we all know it's. Oh, I didn't say it. You said it. That's funny. So look, yeah, I mean it's cool. I don't really care. You know, I don't love, like, hate or anything. It's just not good information. Roger, respect, and I agree. Do you know of active self-protection? Yes, I do. And early on YouTube, you know, one of the things that I'm trying to do, and I don't really kind of understand why it's not happening, is, and you know, I want to do more of the body cam stuff and do more than most people are doing, instead of just sitting there talking about it like, oh, this was wrong, or could have done this better, is like actually demonstrating the things that I can, which is what this video I'm working on is about. I think it's better than the other stuff people are doing around that topic. But, you know, the kind of the crappy part about YouTube is YouTube basically tells you what you can make content about, or what you should make content about. Because if you go look at the video that I made, that is, you know, it was our first time shooting that kind of video. So there was things that weren't necessarily right, and we could have done better, whatever. It was a learning experience, but it's a 27-minute video going over a officer down, them moving direct to threat, actually on the range, like demonstrating it, right? Doing some scenario stuff. And it has like 3,500 views or something. When I make a video about Ukraine, you know, a combat related video, it does really well. So I'm going to keep putting out these body cam review videos in hopes that they will also start doing well. But at some point, if they're just not going to do anything, then maybe it's, I don't want to say give it up, but figure out something else, you know, maybe another direction. I don't want the channel to become a combat review channel, you know, so hopefully it doesn't, but we'll see. But yeah, I know who he is. I actually exchanged emails with that guy at one point. Okay, so here is the deal. I've seen that video that you're talking about, Mihoi Mino. I've referenced that video in a YouTube post. I think it was a post. It had to be a post. Let me see, or an Instagram post, sorry. I don't say who it is, right? I have an opinion about that. See if I can find it. Oh, so basically, if you go to my Instagram, which now it's concept_kinetic, that's my older, like the one that I use most, concept_kinetic. But if you go to the profile, you'll see the police Instagram, kind of keep all that policing related. You can follow that one too. But I actually screenshotted a comment from that video. Okay. And that video, because somebody, said something about speed or whatever, right? And this is something that you'll hear in the industry, right? They say this was a display of speed, not perfection. Yes, some things could have been executed better, but that's the point of pushing yourself to failure in class and progressing. It's called having fun with the boys. Ever heard of it? And there's some truth to that, right? Pushing yourself till failure, seeing what your limit is, right? But it can't be used as an excuse for failure. And in my opinion, people will, right? And what I wrote is, failure is okay. It just depends on what your resume says. You can run through a shoot house, multiple dudes smoke a hostage, and people got your back. Props for them posting it online, though. Unfortunately, it's not, well, crap, maybe I was outrunning my ability to process information before engaging, but instead I was pushing myself to failure, so it's okay. And then I said, meanwhile, the goon squad goes after folks because their buttstock isn't neatly tucked into their shoulder. So a lot of it is dependent upon who you are, because you get basically alibis for just doing whatever, right? So if you watch that video, and I believe it's that exact video, multiple dudes go into the room where the paper target is and smoke the hostage. I don't care how fast you're moving. That should not happen, right? And if you want to and so my question is, why is it happening? Can we actually look at it and ask the question, why is that happening? Can these people actually tell us or tell people, what was it, where was the mistake made, And I'm not even talking about tactics and moving. I don't really care about that. I didn't see anything wrong with all that. But when you're presented with a paper target and it's a hostage and you shoot 5 times and just at the target in of itself, that's just not okay, right? In my opinion. So, if you were on the team and you did that, it wouldn't be fired, but there would be some repercussions. I saw an article, I think if you Google it, you'll probably find it. It says, nobody clears a structure like Delta, something like that. And I didn't read the entire article, but the article basically, he was basically saying they're that good, they're so good that nobody does it like them. That's basically what they're saying, which is, probably true. But it talked about in there where if you're a Delta operator and even if you shoot a paper target, that hostage, that you're going to get, I don't know what the punishment was. I don't know if it said retraining and a year, not off, but before you can get back to the squad or something like that, right? Maybe that's true. I don't know, but that's the seriousness of that thing. So, but it depends on who you are. I've watched team guys shoot each other in training, and because of the positions that they held on the team, nothing happened. Maybe they got talked to, right? But if it's a newer guy, they'll take your car, they'll say we don't know if you can stay around here. So it's also weaponized, in some instances, but we're kind of getting off the topic here, but I think I kind of talked about that. But you asked if it was good training. It is good training. Yeah. I mean, anytime you can get, behind a gun that's actually doing something in an environment that you're unfamiliar with targets where you don't know where they are, and you have an advanced skill level where it's just hey, go clear this as quickly as you can. That's perfectly okay. And that's fine. And that's good training. If you didn't have any reference point, you weren't trained at all, and they were hey, here's a rifle, a sim gun or whatever, there's targets, go shoot them as fast as you can. That wouldn't be good training at all. That'd be terrible. You would do everything wrong and learn nothing. So there's a difference. A drone with a maze. I like GBRS. Check them out. GBRS has said some good things lately, even on them, drama aside. I actually haven't come across anything, and I don't watch them really, but occasionally I catch something where haven't come across really anything that, from a tactics perspective, from a common sense perspective, from a logic perspective, that doesn't make sense. I'm not saying they haven't said anything, but the few things that I've heard them say are hilariously on point. That it's my perspective too on those things, and those things like piss people off when you say it. I actually have a video idea written down about it, showing, well, I'm not even going to tell you, I don't want to spoil it, but basically I posted something on Instagram like a year and a half ago explaining why this makes absolutely no sense. Then I came across a video of GBRS basically saying the same thing way after I said it. Obviously they had that perspective, of course, but it's hilarious because cops are still trained to do it, and it makes no sense. Because they've, it's been passed down from generation to generation and ingrained. I was actually on the phone with my buddy before I started this, who was telling me about a shooting someone just got in and everything that happened with that. But we talked about that. I said, it's actually pretty crazy that, let's just say, for example, most like trainers on departments are they're older, right? Like they've been on a long time, they've been training a long time or whatever. It's crazy that you could be taught something by these guys that in practice doesn't make logical sense at all. It can't be verified as, what actually happens in real life, and them be so bought into the fact that it actually is a viable thing. It's crazy. More airsoft content would be cool. That's how I found your channel. Yeah. I know I'm friends with the guy that is the owner of the airsoft place where you see me shooting these videos, and I've talked to him about doing like a podcast to talk about, airsoft and, training and stuff. But I do want to get into it, but I want to do it from a realistic perspective, not like a have fun perspective, even though it is fun, if you know what I mean. Because I think that's something that people want to know or are interested in, or a part of the airsoft, kind of space that isn't talked about is like, how can you use this as an actual training tool, and instead of like a let's have fun tool? Because there's a difference, right? Like, it's not, if you treat it like a realistic thing, then absolutely it can be realistic. If you're pre-firing around corners, it might be okay in Ukraine, but it's not okay in law enforcement, right? GBRS is okay, but there's some stuff they teach that aren't really best practice. That could be true. Gunfather Milsim here on YouTube. Oh yeah, I actually like that guy. Never met him, but I follow him and I've watched some of his stuff. He's, and I think if I reached out to him, we could very easily do a podcast together, because like his logic and thinking is right in line with mine, and he says a lot of things that are so hilariously, again, like make common sense, and it it's flies kind of like in the face of people that believe or have believed something for so long to be true. And it's funny. When I watch some of his videos, I like smile. It's funny. I'm surprised he actually can talk. He's talking about it like he is, honestly. He's probably getting, I think if he's still active, which he talks like he is, he's probably not, well, I don't want to say he's not well liked. All I'm going to say is that when you try to become something in this, space or whatever, try to put information out there, people that aren't doing that think, maybe they think they're better than you, or maybe they are better than you. Like, they don't like it. And especially, why do you think, like, name one other, and I don't know, maybe this is true or not, is there another police officer that has a YouTube channel that makes content around this stuff that's active and well known? I say well known. I'm not well known, but let's just say has a good following, like 30,000 or whatever, 25,000 subscribers. And, look at, is it Donut Operator? Is that his name? He doesn't do any of this stuff, but he talks about body cams, and he's not a police officer anymore. Now, some of that is probably because he was making a lot of money doing it. He's like, why would I do this? Which is totally cool and makes complete sense. But some of that too is probably, and I don't know if he's talked about this before, but some of that too, yeah, I'm going to get to that guy in a second, but some of that too is probably because his department didn't like it, or people didn't like it. So I'm sure he has video, or sure he has, personal stories about not repercussions or punishment, but like, basically people not liking it, right? So I'll jump down real quick, come back, but Milspec Mojo also was an officer, and he made a video where he talked about the reason that he wasn't is because he didn't get the COVID shot, which again could be true, or is true probably. But did he get back on an agency? I'm only asking that because I think like he dresses like he is, but I could be wrong. Did you see the body cam where the officer shot a baby? I don't know. I mean, was it recent? And where was it? I mean, I know of an officer where it was an active shooter, and instead of shooting the active shooter, he shot the child that the active shooter was with. Yeah, or the child was with the active shooter. So, there's that. But again, that was even brushed off as not a big deal, basically. Actually, the outcome of that was not placed on the officer, it was placed on the active shooter. It's the active shooter's fault, right? Because that's what we do. Because you can't stand there and take blame for, tragedy occurring because we didn't provide adequate training, right? We check boxes, but we don't make people competent. So if we get up there and we say, yeah, we screwed up, it's like, well, what do you mean? What are you doing? Then you have to actually start doing something about it. But if we just go, it's their fault. Yeah, mission failed. It's crazy to me, man. Nobody wants to take responsibility for, I say nobody, of course. I speak in generalities, but of course, obviously don't mean absolutely everybody and all that stuff. But there's where it shows like the Taliban walking, looking for the Navy SEALs, and then, basically Marcus Luttrell saying like on Anderson Cooper saying, he heard his buddy being killed, calling his name, and he put his gun down and covered his ears because he couldn't stand to hear him scream, and all he wanted to do is for him to stop screaming his name. And he goes, so that makes me a coward. So, and then, subsequently what happens, which is go listen to the book, Code Over Country. There's a lot of stuff in there where, it's just like real information regarding Navy SEALs and Special Forces operators and stuff. And a lot of it has to do with like what actually happened and then the story that was told, right? So that's why I always like the true versions of stories. Like they're more interesting to me. And if you look at the stories of a lot of these things that actually happened, they were not, the story that was told was not what happened, right? And the reason is because like, well, we can't tell the real story because that's going to make the organization look like we're not as elite as we like people to think we are, right? You can't say 8 Taliban dudes in flip-flops took out 4 SEALs. You got to say they were overwhelmed by a force of 200, men or whatever, right? You can't say that Marcus Luttrell had a full kit on with all of his ammo when he was recovered. So, and you can't, I don't know if anybody's read Lone Survivor, the book, but did Marcus Luttrell say in the book that he put his gun down? I mean, and if he didn't, why wouldn't you, right? So, I don't like those stories. I don't watch those movies. Usually. Any movies that are based, well, I say they're true, right? But like, I did watch Lone Survivor though, but I don't seek out watching those movies. I don't read the books because you do not know what is true and what isn't. And, also another aspect of that too, kind of getting off into the weeds is, there isn't really a single reasonable person that believes that we went to fight a 20-year war for legitimate reasons. Like Sean Ryan had that sniper guy, I don't know his name, on his podcast. I meant to clip it, but basically Sean Ryan's like, I don't believe like we went to war for legitimate reasons and, it was all a waste or whatever. And the guy's like, yeah, I don't think so either. Right. And so the problem with telling like stories telling stories about things that actually happened but fabricating the story to make, us look good, is that those same stories are the stories that are going to encourage other children, other kids growing up to want to join these organizations, right? So they want to also influence the next generation of warfighters, right? We're not going to tell people like we went to war for something that didn't make sense. We're not going to tell people that, these missions that we ran ended in failure because we weren't good or whatever, right? We're going to tell the hero story all the time. And it's BS, man. So I would be worried, if you have kids and whatnot and they're into this kind of stuff, like you just got to know the truth, right? Same thing with the fact that I think it was SEAL Team 6. If you could look it up yourself, I think it was Dr. Norgrove. I think she was a doctor. Kidnapped by the Taliban. SEALs did a raid. Navy SEAL threw a grenade and killed her. And probably threw the grenade after he had already shot her. Mistake or whatever. And of course, that's not the story he told. And that's not the story that Obama told the Queen of England, which was she had a suicide vest on, or they had a suicide vest on and blew her up, right? So, and good for Obama, he actually called her back and said, hey, we found out that one of our guys actually killed her. Sorry about that. So, that's good. Glad he did that. But, the SEALs lied about it, or the SEAL lied about it, said, no, I didn't throw a grenade, or I didn't throw a grenade. Well, they had a UAV up in the air. And so, basically they saw it, but they couldn't make out exactly what happened because it was grainy. So they had to basically have it whatever you call it when you make it better, basically. And when they did that, they were clearly able to see he threw a grenade, right? So they, whatever happened, he got removed from the team or whatever. But again, so you hear these stories and it's really sad actually, because a lot of men do a lot of courageous things and deserve a lot of credit for the things they do. And that story actually needs to be told. But the problem is unless there's unless there's camera footage of it happening, this is, in my opinion, potentially just a fictional or non-fictional story that's being told fictionally, right? So that's why I just don't get excited about these stories. And that's kind of the thing that's all the craze on YouTube and stuff, is these just stories about these things that have happened. And maybe people are still I don't really care. I think it's still an interesting story, but to me, it's not all that interesting if it's not real. So, you can go all the way back to even Pat Tillman, right? Pat Tillman was killed by his own people, friendly fire. They knew that immediately. They covered it up to the point where, they were talking about him at his funeral, like the general or whoever, and I forget, there was something with his wedding ring. I can't remember what it was, but they told the wife something about the wedding ring. She's like, he didn't have that kind of wedding ring or something, but again, the army, right? So, okay, well, we shot him, but we can't say we shot him. We got to make up a story, because there's nothing heroic about, I say that, but you know what I mean. And make us look bad. So you can't, be you don't trust the government, and which most people don't. And then also be but I also believe every story the military tells. And I also believe every story, every guy who's ever been there and who's done something is told. So yeah, definitely got off into the weeds. But grenades in a hostage rescue mission. Yeah. What's his name? Morgan something, Kyle Morgan. He talks about the grenades in a hostage rescue, and because they needed them in the incident that he was involved in. But it's also an interesting aspect of it too. And I've never mentioned this before, but I'll mention it here. Why not, right? So, again, this is not about people. I don't mind the people. I'm sure they're great people. But here's something that doesn't make sense to me when we think about tactics and decision making and this and that. So at one time I was talking a lot about shields, and a lot of people were anti-shield, right? Well, there's somebody that is on that same kind of working team within the organization that's anti-shield, basically. Like, put out videos or talked about like, oh, this is why, I don't think you should have a shield because, slow you down or whatever the reasoning was. And the part that I just don't understand is, if you listen to Kyle Morgan's story, they needed a shield to get to where the terrorist was to actually eliminate him. Right? Nobody was pushing in there because there was heavy fire or whatever, obviously. But when they got the shield, they were able to push up and eliminate the threat. So how could you be part of an organization, be anti-against it, but also have somebody part of the organization that needed that piece of equipment to deal with the problem? So, like, I don't know what that is. Is that like a miscommunication? Is that like, oh, I didn't really know you used one and I see now where it could be, so I misspoke? Like, what is that? I don't get it. Is something trying to be, you got to be aware, like in the industry, a lot of things are, trying to be sold. I'm not saying that they're doing that at all. But just in the industry in general, people oftentimes will say things and market things and talk about things because like it's money, not because it makes sense. Again, not saying that's them, but that's just one thing that I don't understand. Doesn't quite make sense to me, right? I am going to be hopping off here soon, so before I do that, though, make sure you guys just drop a like in there. That would be helpful, I think. I think that's how this works. Let's see what else we got going on. Appreciate the likes, whoever's doing that. Any more questions? You guys got anything else? My kids are about to get picked up from school. And let's see, for the rest of the day, what am I doing? I'm off for like a whole week of work, so that's awesome. Try and get some stuff done. I got this video to edit. I just finished a video before this one. Hi. And I have that video to edit. And I finished that 25-minute video on why you probably shouldn't move dynamic unless you're rescuing a hostage. Where's Manila? I said that right. So I got like 3 videos that are ready. And I think like because the fact that I'm probably on a 1 video a week schedule, just because it seems like the YouTube is like wanting me to do that. Whenever I do get these videos done, like I said, they'll be available for members first whenever I do get them done. I think in the... Oh, that's cool. I did make a video about the Filipino army if you haven't seen it. But like I said, I think in the description of the membership, it does say something like, videos for members first. And I think I wrote something and it's like, when I have them done. I guess maybe like kind of gotten to my kids are back at school now and got into a situation where maybe it's both more time and also the way I'm creating my videos, I'm just doing it a little bit faster and more efficiently. And so I'm kind of getting to a point now where I have videos done that I just need to do something with. And so that's where I'll put them. Well, okay, watch it a couple of times. That's cool. I appreciate that. It's always funny, right? Like, for example, right? And, this is a learning experience for me too. It's a balance between when I'm doing these videos to like talk about something relevant or not talk about it because I've already talked. And people have said in the past, or what I did at the beginning was I let the video play, but I paused or like I muted the sound and talked. And people were like, oh, well, we can't hear it. And I'm like, okay, I thought that was a way to do it where the video wouldn't be so long. But then I'm like, okay, so you want me to pause it. So then I'm pausing the video and talking about it. And I try to, whatever I am talking about, I try to make it brief. But, and I try not to pause it all the time. But people inevitably, like a lot of people are like, oh man, this is great. I appreciate it. The insight and things I didn't think about or whatever. And then like you also get people occasionally that are like, man, you talk too much, or like, don't play the video or don't talk, just play the video. And it's like, you can't do that. I mean, that's not, you can't use somebody else's video and then just play the video on your channel like that. I wouldn't do that anyways. Like there's, even if I got 1 million subscribers and made a bunch of money and everybody loved it, that'd be silly. Like, so, but I appreciate that you enjoy it. So I talked about this earlier, but like with the shield. So like, so what we would do is like, say we were running a warrant on a residence or an apartment. First of all, we would not, if we could help it, not stand in front of the door when we knocked on it. So we'd use a fire pole. I kind of talked about a fire pole in this video I'm making, but you know, they're like 10, you know, let's say 8 feet long and they're very sturdy. So we could actually be like not near the door and knock on the door, right? Announce ourselves behind the shield and then do that a couple of times. Then at the time in which it's time to move up and breach, we would move up, the breacher would breach, the shield would cover the breacher's egress away from the door. And then in a lot of cases, we would pull back again, right? Because yeah, your shield is great and it can protect you, you know, for rounds that is rated to protect you from, but it can't protect you from all the angles, even through the wall, right? So yeah, you might be in the doorway or somewhere near the doorway looking in, but you only have a certain perspective, right? Well, what if the shooter's over here in the dining room in the corner and he just starts shooting, you know, I don't say through the wall because I'm not an advocate and don't think people actually do that, but it's still a consideration. So in most cases, we would pull back, call out some more, and then we would move up to the doorway, do an assessment of what we have, covertly kind of talk about what we have, or somebody kind of running the team would, you know, typically the shield guy is going to be on the shield. That's his job. The person behind who's seeing all these things happen, he's going to kind of come up and he's going to look. He's going, okay, opening to the right, kitchen to the left. And while the shield guy is holding on that, this is what we do. We make decisions to attack individual problems by sending a minimal amount of people forward to solve that problem, okay? That's what covert searching is. That's what you actually should be doing when you're searching for a person who may be there to hurt you. And when you do it that way, you're able to do the things like you see in this video, right? You're able to look down there and go, hey, that door doesn't have a doorknob on it. It's open, it's cracked, right? Because that's what it is in their situation. And so if you didn't have, and I've done this, like if you didn't have a pole, you could grab a pillow off the couch and throw it open. So imagine you're back here like you see here, and you had one guy covering and the other guy with a pillow, who by the time the pillow hits the door, they're in the room, right? And now you still have the same thing, a guy down the hallway ready to engage if there's something there. That would be awesome. Like there's a guy that I know of, I haven't been able to like get a hold of him, but in our area, he, admittedly didn't have a lot of training. Went in there looking for a guy. I think it was, I don't know if it was murder or it was like a domestic. So the female was there too. So they went in there, and I actually think the guy was more of an investigator. But then, long story short, they get into the bathroom of where he gets into the bathroom, and there's, what do you see? Well, you see a shower curtain, right? So what do most people do on shower curtains? They just reach up, and if they have their handgun in their hand, hopefully it's at least up like this, but they reach up and they, swipe it. That's a freaking terrible place to be when a dude's standing there with a gun like this, okay? And guess what happened in that situation? There was a guy there with a gun like this. So immediately he got shot a lot, dropped his gun, he just got shot, dropped his gun, fell down. Crook got up, grabbed his other gun, and had both of his guns like this. And he was coherent and awake enough to where the crook was like, get on your knees. So he got on his knees. And now he's begging for his life, basically. So, you cannot mitigate that problem by moving dynamically, right? Or by standing there and opening the shower curtain. I'm not going to tell you that we could have done that. I'm not going to tell you if there was no other way. I don't know. But I have thrown many things at shower curtains from outside the bathroom because I'm not going to go stand next to it when I open it. So that's, I don't know. I kind of went off, but so yeah, call everything out. So like we would call people out. If people came out, we would do intel on them if we didn't have our guy. And if you're in law enforcement, you've talked to a lot of people and you know kind of how this works. You can get a pretty good idea whether or not they're lying to you or there's somebody in there. And ultimately, if they are lying, what usually works is like, look, we're going to go in there and we do not want to be surprised by this person. We do not want to find him. We don't want to get hurt and we don't want him to get hurt. So the best thing that you could do for his own safety is just tell if he's in there. And a lot of times they'll be like, yeah, he's in there, you know? So, and if he is, then we say, we know you're in there, come out. And if he's not, then we start doing other things. But yeah. All right, guys, that's it. I appreciate you coming by. Didn't really get a lot of editing done. So there's that, which is cool. But since I know this works now, maybe I do this more often where I start editing the video. And if it just doesn't, you know, we're not talking about the video anymore, that's cool. But I appreciate you guys. I appreciate all your interaction with all the videos. I'm going to keep working at this thing. I'm going to keep just putting out the videos that I want to put out and just see what happens, see how they perform. And, you know, not going to stop doing the police related videos because to me that is, or more or less the mission and more important to me because individual officers, you know, on the street doing the thing. And I don't know that people are talking about those kinds of things in the ways that I am and giving them these ideas that they can utilize in real time. So that's what I'm going to keep doing. So hopefully we can get these police videos working pretty well for the channel and can continue to do that. Yeah, that's cool. Anybody that has can learn from the videos is obviously free to do that, but that's cool too. Go mole, however you say that. But all right, guys, I appreciate it. And you know, see you on the next one.